If you want to master the core mechanics of Fortnite, it really comes down to four main things: your builds, edits, aim, and movement. And in this video, I'm going to teach you all of them. Real quick before the video starts, if you guys ever want to send me a DM or message me where I'll see it easier, here's my Twitter. The link will be in the description. Now let's get right into the video. Starting with probably the most popular of the four mechanics, let's talk about building. Now I'm not going to lie, this one is debatably the hardest one to master, but the good news is I'm going to give you guys every bit of information I can in order to get you guys looking swifty. One of the best things you can do to improve your mechanics is to attempt certain build patterns that are difficult for you. Right now I'm going to show you guys a few different build patterns that I personally like to do, but I want to stress that you shouldn't limit yourself to these ones that I'm showing you. Feel free to get creative and make up your own, or copy mine, it doesn't really matter. The biggest thing is that you guys do something that's difficult for you to do consistently. Also, just because I'm only showing you guys a few examples, doesn't mean you should only be doing 3 or 4 different build patterns. In order for you to see a significant improvement with this method, do as many as you can. Depending on your skill level, you can practice something like double edits or something more advanced like quad edits. You don't need to do them all in one day either. Pick like 4 that you want to practice one day, then the next time you're on pick another 4, and then the next another 4. Now what I'm about to say is the same concept but slightly different, and that's to attempt challenging free builds on top of the build patterns that you are already doing. If we take a look at Polarized, he's able to pretty effortlessly crank out this free build, and even though most of us probably can't do something like this, it is so good to try and recreate that, even if you have to go slow in order to do so. It is very frustrating not being able to do something, especially if you're a pretty competitive person, but don't get discouraged because this is one of the best ways you can actually improve your builds. However, another huge aspect to improving is crosshair placement. Let's say I wanted to do something like this. If I were to have bad crosshair placement, then it would take me longer to actually place all these builds than it would with good crosshair placement. Obviously, I exaggerated my crosshair for this example, but you get the point. This goes with literally every build you place, so make sure you know exactly where to look. For example, when you want to place a wall directly in front of you, you have to look down, because looking straight ahead like you normally would results in the further wall placing and not the closer one. If I want a scissor ramp with walls, keep the movements tight to allow you to place these walls in one swift motion. These are just examples, but the point still stands. You can always focus on your crosshair placement for placing literally any builds. Now it's no surprise that editing and building go hand in hand and are pretty much the same in some aspects, such as crosshair placement. However, I feel it's still worth mentioning that you need to work on your editing crosshair placement as well, because that is one of the best ways you can improve your editing. Simplifying the movement it takes for you to actually make an edit is going to drastically reduce the time it takes you to make these edits, which speeds up your overall mechanics. Whether or not you're a beginner and need to build a good foundation, or you've been playing for a long time, this crosshair placement map can get you on the right track to mastering your crosshair placement. But it doesn't have every single edit in there, so just keep that in mind. This topic is something I've discussed before, but I'll say it again to stress its importance, is to get your edit timing down. If you mess up edits because you try and do them too quick before the game lets you do that second or third edit, or even if you feel like you edit too slow, I found this map that lets you practice your edits on a bunch of the same structure at once. That way you can build that muscle memory. If your creative ping is significantly better than your in-game ping, try to replicate your in-game ping by switching to another region before loading into creative. I also want to note that how far away from a build you are determines how much you have to move your crosshair. Let's say I want to edit this bottom right triangle from a tile away. I don't have to move my crosshair too much in order to do so, but if I were right up against a wall needing to do the same edit, I have to make a much more exaggerated movement, so sometimes it is necessary to have exaggerated movements. If we take a look at Reet here, he's in a high pressure situation where he's endgame in a duo cash cup, 1 HP to zone, and he needs to get out before he dies to storm. He takes his time and makes an exaggerated edit because he's pressed up against a wall. Now in this situation, he's trying to take an enemy's wall, so he wants to edit it quick once he gets it. And because he's not directly pressed up against a wall, he can get this perfect fast motion in order to edit it. Now the aim category is where things get a bit tricky, because up until now, whether you're a keyboard or controller, it didn't matter. The same information applied to both of you. But for aim, I'll be briefly going over both inputs. The common theme for aiming is having control, whether that's mouse control or control over your joystick. For controller players, my personal recommendation is occasionally playing an aim training map here and there, such as the one I'm playing here. But in all honesty guys, you simply need to grind the game. Aiming is one of those things that takes time to build, and even with aim assist, you need to put yourself in a lot of aiming scenarios like 1v1 aim duels in order to improve. Yes, on controller you have aim assist, but there's a reason not all controller players have the same aim. You guys should also try to play relaxed and not grip your controller so tightly, because this makes you stiffer and in less control over your joystick. The same thing applies to keyboard players. Don't tense your wrists while aiming and try to relax your hand and arm while you play, and especially while you aim. Now the grind for keyboarders is a bit more structured, as Kovacs is super beneficial for improving your mouse control. If you can get in the habit of doing a solid routine, you'll see an exponential increase in your aim due to the better mouse control you've gained from it. This does, however, cost $10, and if that's not something you're willing or able to do, I completely understand, and there's another option that you have. Raiders Mechanics Training V4 actually has a scaled down version of Kovacs, and you can go do some of the same drills in there. Regardless if you purchase Kovacs or not, it doesn't excuse the fact that you guys need to play the game to get your aim up, because like I said before, you're not going to master aiming unless you actually put the time in on Fortnite. The fourth and final category, and in my opinion something that isn't talked about enough, is movement. Having good movement can be the difference between taking a max damage pump to the face and getting pumped for a 30 tag, or not even getting pumped at all. It also decreases damage dealt to you throughout the entirety of a fight, and with the current state of the game heavily favoring snipers, good movement can save you from getting headshot sniped and ending your game. Okay, I've talked about what good movement can do for you. Now let's get into how you can actually achieve it. This is honestly the easiest of the four categories to work on, being that it isn't as intensive as something like building. The first thing I want to focus on is your fighting movement. When you're actively in a box with an opponent, you need to be wiggling around, because if you run straight at them, that's one of the easiest pumps for an enemy to hit, and most of the time you're just giving them a free max damage shot. We all know Reet has incredible aim, but this player he's fighting is on 50 HP, and Reet basically has him dead to rights, but the opponent tack sprints, causing Reet to miss, and he's able to get out of there and live. An example of a pro you can watch who has phenomenal movement is Clicks. If we take a look at this clip from a duo cash cup, he knocks a player and then needs to jump in to finish the fight. He uses the ramp to exploit in, but one thing I feel like many viewers probably missed is the fact that while in the air, Clicks is still holding A, allowing him to strafe left. Clicks understand that this makes it a much more difficult shot for his opponent to hit, because the enemy has to adjust his crosshair mid-air, and with these current pump shotguns, the pullout and shoot time is very quick. So in that time it takes his opponent to adjust, Clicks can get a shot off before the other guy even shoots. Now when you're not in the box, arguably the most important thing you can do is to utilize your tack sprint. It's been in the game for quite some time now, and yet it still throws people off guard. Not only is it very difficult to hit you while you tack sprint, it often allows you to catch your opponent off guard by quickly getting to an angle that they don't expect you to come from. Another quick example from Clicks here is you can see how he tack sprints over this wall in order to find an angle and land a big pump shot. He does this all the time, and it's really an effective way of creating angles to land big shots. You can also utilize the tack sprint in short bursts in between building. So for example, let's say I scissor ramp up and I want to flip the ramp to turn around. I can incorporate the tack sprint in to speed up the process, which speeds up the time it takes me to do the move overall. So it's very important to have these short little bursts when building. Now if you've made it this far into the video, I do really appreciate it, and if you genuinely enjoyed it or it helped you in any way, consider subscribing for more videos like this one, as YouTube tells me over 97% of my viewers are not yet subbed. Other than that, I got nothing else for you guys, so I'll see you in the next one. Peace.